We had an opportunity for undergraduates and graduate students alike to experience study abroad at a level that was appropriate for where they're at in school, but we're all operating under one roof. We're all under this one schoolhouse model, which sometimes that's in a hotel lobby, sometimes it's in the back of a bus on your way to Italy.
One of the most interesting things about the one-room schoolhouse is the way the students work together among their different levels to develop different areas of knowledge and different ways of learning and knowing and traveling too.
I'm glad that I got to know my classmates better. I'm looking forward to seeing all of them in the fall, and I'm glad that I will know how to be an expert traveler.
That's the cool thing about academia, is that you have this opportunity to see how people who think completely differently than you do, for us to all share this experience together and to benefit from having these conversations and then going back and seeing what that final product is in the paper. We can have these conversations all night long, but then to see our students put it into writing and use their rhetorical devices in really, really impressive ways by the end of the trip, we couldn't ask for anything more.
I have enjoyed the reading, and as we've, especially with Tramp Abroad, as we have visited the areas that he writes about in the book, it really started to connect for me. It made me think of the book and think of, oh, that's what he was talking about, when I started getting into that more and really start to connect these things to things I've now seen and now have actual knowledge, and I can see it in my head when I close my eyes as I'm reading about it.
Classroom students have this habit of thinking they're just doing busy work, they're just completing the work to get the grade, and they don't really think of the learning that's taking place. But on study abroad, I'm not sure that there's that opportunity. I think you have to realize that you're learning something and that you will use it somehow, or that it will affect you forever somehow. And so that's one thing I'd really like to be able to bring back from study abroad to my composition students and to my students in the future, is to help them understand that their writing is worth something, and it's not just for a grade, it's not just for a degree, but it's something that they will use forever.
This has been just a life-changing experience because I've been able to see the things that I never thought I would be able to see. And fusing that with the literary landmarks and all of the educational aspects has been really wonderful. This trip has allowed me to be able to explore all of my options and view the world differently. So now I feel like I have a completely different outlook.
Well, I think one of the things we've all learned to do from study abroad in our classroom is writing. So like journal writing.
We've learned to tailor our writing prompts to benefit everybody. So we're not just giving them writing prompts that only English majors would find interesting every day. And even on this study abroad trip, you know, we had English majors, mass comm, art, history, business. We have this whole spread, psychology majors.
I'm Paul Tyler. I'm a math teacher at Wiley High School, and this trip has been very beneficial for me. Coming from a small town, not very many people travel. I tend to hang out with people who have never left the state of Colorado. It's really nice that I can take this back to my students and tell them you can travel if you just want to do it and you set your mind to it.
Arguably one of the most important relationships that we make on this trip is with Dr. Souder. The three of us can all agree that she is our mentor. We are more than lucky to have her within our academic careers and our lives personally. A huge thing with Dr. Souder is that all of our students respect her in a way that makes study abroad work. Because if you don't have that respect for the professor that's leading this group, pure chaos is bound to happen, and we have our moments of chaos. But is this one binding factor? It is her role within this experience that really gives us the guidance to be able to appreciate it for the amazing opportunity that it is.
My first study abroad trip, I'd never had a class with Dr. Souder before. It was as an undergraduate, and I mean, I'd seen her in the hallways, talked to her about different things in her office, and I knew I wanted to go to graduate school. I knew I wanted to work as a GTA, and I was pretty sure at that point I was going on to a PhD program. And so I decided Dr. Souder is somebody I have to know. Just period. She's someone I have to have in my life.
So before my first study abroad trip, I had never been out of Colorado. I had never been on a plane. My life was very small. We live in the house that my dad grew up in, and my mom grew up next door. Neither of them has traveled much. I met Dr. Souder and my world changed. The first place that I went to outside of Colorado was Paris. That first trip, France and Spain, turned me into a French minor. I had this desire to learn another language. My eyes were open to this world, and that is so much bigger than myself and than Pueblo and bigger than Colorado, and it showed me there's so much possibility out there for me, and I don't have to live a life even that my parents lived. Neither of them went to college. I'm the first one in my family to go to college. I'm the first one in my family to leave the country, to study abroad, to learn another language. It's given me so much courage and confidence.
Everybody is encouraged to share the things that they have written in within their journal, and they recognize that they are creating their own literature in these places of the literature that we've read along with the trip. And that's something that is incredibly empowering to young writers.
After 2 weeks of passionate travel and writing and becoming part of a place forever, the students come back and they're really willing to share this with people in an academic and personal way. It's very fulfilling.
One of the most personal connections that I had on this year's study abroad was our group's trip to Neuschwanstein. The key reason that was so important to me, personal to me, was that my father had traveled there when I was a young boy, sent me back a photo of himself standing on the steps leading up to Neuschwanstein. That photo has actually been one of my prized possessions, especially after my father's passing when I was 23. And this year, I not only got to go to Neuschwanstein, I got to take my own photo in that exact same spot.
Literature is a living artifact of society, and it's a cultural representation of now and then in a very important way.
And so when you stand there, for me, the most poignant example that I always use, even though this was my first study abroad trip, is when you read literature written by Ernest Hemingway and F. Scott Fitzgerald in 1920s Paris. It's fun, it's exciting, but then when you stand on those cobblestone streets in the Latin Quarter and you hear the people bustling by, hollering out to each other and calling across the street to one another, and you kind of close your eyes and you get it in such a different way. You understand the hurriedness of the text. You understand that kind of panicked, drastic, dramatic effect that the literature has on you. And it's not just because it's there in the text, it's because that's Paris.
These trips have inspired a love of culture and people and learning new things and seeing new places. These places that I thought I would only ever read about. And now I've been there. I've been to Ernest Hemingway's apartment in Paris. I've been to Notre Dame.
Starting as an undergraduate and moving all the way through graduate teaching assistant on this study abroad trips has given me the confidence to know that not only can I take myself alone or with friends, but I can take students with me too.
You know, a big push for me to pursue a PhD has been these kind of trips, and recognizing that it's okay to leave the state of Colorado. You know, I've gone to school here, and I have always blamed that on in-state tuition, but a huge part of that was fear and not feeling like I would flourish anywhere else, being too far from family, being too far from friends. And the truth is, you can find yourself at home in a lot of places in this world. And so a PhD seems a lot less scary when you do things like this, because you recognize that if I can navigate the metro in Paris and in London, I'm doing all right.
It's transformed me. I'm a completely different person now than I was before, and it's apparent to everyone. I feel more confident, I feel more educated, I feel more aware, I feel humbled.
Study abroad is possibility.
Study abroad is transformative.
Study abroad is everything.
have the whole world ahead of me and I can do anything.